AI, Organizational Leadership and Responsible Next Steps. A mini in-service session for organizational leaders from Stratified Learning. The purpose of this session is to build a shared leadership understanding of AI. We will look at how AI emerged, where it's already being used, what changed with generative AI, and what responsible adoption could look like for an organisation carrying real community responsibility. The goal of this little discussion isn't to make everyone an AI specialist. It's to give leaders enough practical understanding to ask better questions. What should AI be used for? What should it not be used for? What information must be protected? Who checks the output? And who remains accountable for the decision? By the end, the important distinction should be clear. Casual AI use is individual, uneven, and difficult to review. Governed AI use is purposeful, bounded, checked, and accountable. And that distinction matters before any serious organisation decides what tools or systems it may choose to trial. AI did not begin for most people with ChatGPT. Most people used AI-like tools for years before calling them AI. When a phone suggests the next word, when autocorrect changes spelling, when Google ranks search results, when maps suggest a route, or when email moves a message into spam, a system is using patterns to suggest, rank, predict, or sort. These systems do not understand context in the way people do. They work by recognising patterns across large amounts of data. The point isn't that they are wise or authoritative. The point is that they become useful enough to disappear into ordinary life. That is the first important shift. AI moved from laboratories and specialist settings into pockets, inboxes, cameras, search bars and everyday devices. ChatGPT did not create AI from nothing. It made AI visible, conversational and much easier for ordinary users to direct. For organisational leaders, that means AI is already in and around your staff, documents and work practices. The question isn't whether AI will arrive. We all know it already has arrived. The responsible question is now, how should it and how should it not be used? A useful way to understand AI is through a few public moments that many people can recognise. In 1997, IBM's Deep Blue defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov. That was one of the first times AI became a public symbol of machine intelligence. It made people ask whether computers could do things usually associated with high-level human thought. Then throughout the 2000s, AI became much less visible but much more common. Search engines ranked pages. Spam filters sorted through email. Online shops and video platforms recommended what to look at next. Digital maps estimated traffic and suggested routes. Photo apps began recognising faces, places and objects. And in this period, AI was mostly in the background, making predictions and recommendations. In 2011, Siri and other voice assistants helped make AI feel conversational. People could speak to a device and expect it to interpret the request. These systems often misunderstood names, accents, places and context, but they did change public expectations. Technology was no longer something people just clicked through, it was something people could ask questions of. In 2014, predictive text became even more familiar through phone keyboards such as Apple's QuickType. When a phone suggests the next word or corrects a phrase, it's using patterns in language. It can predict what usually comes next, but it does not know what should be said in a serious local decision. The largest shift came in 2022 when ChatGPT made generative AI visible to ordinary users. Predictive AI suggests what is likely. Generative AI creates a draft output, a letter, summary, explanation, plan, or even a policy outline. That is why the present moment feels so different. The interface became ordinary language, and the output became usable work. The next question now is therefore not simply how to use more AI, but how to govern AI when it begins to enter real organisational work. The distinction here is one of the most important distinctions in our whole discussion. Predictive AI suggests what is likely. It might suggest the next word, the best route, or whether an email looks like spam. But generative AI does something more powerful. It creates a work product. A person can ask it to draft a letter, summarise a long document, prepare a checklist, explain a policy, or turn a procedure into training material. This creates obvious benefits. It can reduce time spent on first drafts, summaries, and preparation work. It can help people who are under pressure organise material more quickly. But the risk also increases. A generated document can sound polished, even when it's incomplete, wrong, biased, or out of date. The more AI output enters real work, the more leaders need clear rules about where it is acceptable, where it's not acceptable, and who must check it before it is used. AI is now moving into ordinary organisational work. The Stanford AI Index reported very high levels of organisational AI adoption. AI is no longer a fringe technology used only by specialists. Your staff are using it every day right now. And at the same time, many organisations are still struggling to turn access into disciplined capability. People use AI for emails, documents, analysis, but without shared rules, your organisation may not know what information was entered, what output was relied on, whether it was checked, or whether the use was even appropriate. Governments are also formalising responsible AI expectations. The Australian Government, the Queensland Government have both issued policy and governance material around responsible AI use. So the leadership question is therefore very practical. Which AI uses serve organisations responsibly, and what boundaries are needed before those uses become part of normal work? The most realistic uses of AI are often modest but valuable. AI can help summarise long documents, prepare meeting notes, draft a follow-up list, or organise a bank of policies. Those uses don't require AI to become a decision maker. They use AI to reduce the friction around preparation, documentation, and coordination. A grant response may begin with AI assistance, but it still needs review by people who understand the funder, the program, the local context, and the risks. A meeting summary may be helpful, but it still needs to be confirmed by people who were present at the meeting and who know what was actually agreed. So a good rule of thumb is this: AI can prepare, organise and draft. People with authority must check, interpret and decide. That is the boundary that keeps AI useful without making it responsible for work it can't properly own. The risks listed here aren't reasons to avoid AI altogether, they're reasons to use AI carefully. AI can produce a confident paragraph even when the content is wrong. It can invent details, misinformation, or provide a neat answer to a question that requires nuanced judgment. AI can also miss context that matters deeply. It may not understand local history, cultural authority, family and community relationships, obligations that are attached to your funding, or the practical consequences of a decision. It may reproduce bias from the data it has learned from. It may also create privacy risks if sensitive information is placed into tools that aren't suitable for that information. So the safe position is not that AI should never be used. The position is that AI should not be trusted alone in areas involving responsibility, privacy, cultural context, funding, services, or decisions that affect people. When AI output enters real work, a person with authority must know how it was used, what was checked, and who remains accountable. This is where the discussion turns from general AI literacy to leadership judgment. The important questions cannot be answered from the technology itself. They have to be answered by the people who understand local priorities, obligations, risk, and responsibility. A useful way to begin is to separate work into three groups. First, work that AI could safely support. Second, work where AI could help, but only under clear rules. And then third, work that should not be handled or handed to casual AI tools at all. That separation gives leaders a practical starting point for responsible organisational adoption. Ungoverned AI often begins with good intentions. Someone wants to save time, so they use a tool to draft a letter, rewrite an email, or interpret a report. The problem is that the organisation may not know what information was shared, whether the output was checked, who approved the use, or who's responsible if the output is wrong. Governed AI is different. The tool itself may be similar, but the decision environment around it is different. There is a clear purpose, approved use cases, privacy boundaries, human responsibility, and a review trail. People know what is allowed, what is not allowed, and when escalation is required. So for organisations carrying high responsibility, this difference matters. Ungoverned AI may feel fast, but it's fragile and sloppy. Governed AI may take more time to set up, but it creates stronger continuity, clearer accountability, and far better protection over time. Responsible AI adoption begins before tool selection. The first question is purpose. What problem or workflow is AI meant to support? If the purpose is unclear, the use will drift. If the purpose is clear, the organisation can decide whether AI is actually appropriate. The second question is boundaries. What uses are acceptable and what uses are off limits? What information must never be placed into unsuitable tools? Which outputs require review before they're used? Who is authorised to check them? The third question is accountability. AI can assist, but a person or role must remain responsible for the decision, the document, or the action. That responsibility should include evidence, reasoning, review, and correction when necessary. The term used for this feature is called the human in the loop. The final question is capability. People need shared practice, not private habits. Training should help leaders and staff understand the limits of AI, protect sensitive information, use AI only where appropriate, and review outcomes against quality, time, continuity, and risk. One possible next step is the Stratified Governance System from Stratified Learning, or SGS. The Stratified Governance System can be understood as a governed decision environment for organisations that want AI support to sit inside clear accountability rather than remain as scattered individual tool use. The SGS is described as a governance layer above operations. So it does not replace finance systems, HR systems, service delivery systems, or the people who carry responsibility. Its role is to make significant decisions visible, justified, traceable, and reviewable over time. In this model, local authority and human judgment remain primary. AI can assist with summaries, options, documentation, and checklists, but the purpose, organisational context, responsibility, and final decision remain with humans. The value of a system like SGS is de-risking. It helps preserve the reasoning, evidence, context, privacy, boundaries, review points, and follow-through around your important decisions. That's the difference between simply using AI and placing AI inside a governed pathway. So a careful pilot within your organisation should start small. The aim is not to change everything at once. The aim is to choose one or two workflows where AI might support reducing friction while the governance rules remain clear and reviewable. Possible pilot candidates could include grants and acquittals, meeting actions, service coordination, onboarding, or program reporting. These are only candidates, but the useful test is whether the workflow already involves documents, evidence, follow-up, responsibility, and review. A careful pilot would map the current workflow, identify decision points, define your privacy boundaries, clarify who checks AI-assisted work, train your people on real tasks, and review the results before expanding. That keeps the work locally owned and defensible. And the review of the pilot should ask practical questions. Did it save time? Did it improve quality? Did it protect sensitive information? Did it strengthen continuity? If those questions can't be answered, the pilot has not yet produced enough evidence to justify scaling up. Forward-looking leadership is not simply adopting AI quickly. It's deciding how AI can be used responsibly, locally, ethically, and accountably. Speed by itself isn't the measure here. The stronger measure is whether AI use strengthens purpose, judgment, continuity, and responsibility. AI is already present in everyday systems, and generative AI now makes it easier to produce work. That creates opportunity, but it also creates governance pressure. Organisations need to know what AI is being used for, who remains accountable, and how the decisions can be reviewed. A governed pathway, such as the SGS, may be one option to explore. Its significance would not be technology for its own sake. The significance would be serious local governance, using AI with purpose, protecting responsibility, making reasoning visible, and keeping local authority primary. So the next question is practical. Which use cases are important enough to govern carefully, and which areas should remain outside casual AI use? The questions here are designed to surface your organisation's priorities, not assume the answer in advance. The first question asks where AI-like tools may already be in use, formally or informally. Well, that matters because unrecognised use is harder to govern. The second question asks which workflows would benefit from better summaries, drafts, checklists, or follow-up tracking. That helps identify where AI might provide practical support without taking over decisions. The third question is just as important. What information, decisions, or organisational context should never be handed over to casual AI tools? A responsible pathway has to include clear no-go areas. And the fourth and fifth questions move towards a possible pilot. What rules would make a small trial safe enough, and what evidence would show that it was useful, ethical, and accountable? Those questions put organisational judgment before the technology. AI has moved from background systems that predict and recommend to generative tools that can produce real work. This is a major change, but it does not remove the need for human judgment. In fact, it makes human judgment more important. For an organisation carrying community responsibility, the next step should not be casual AI use scattered across individuals. The stronger pathway is governed use, clear purpose, clear boundaries, privacy protection, human in the loop, evidence, review and training. The stratified governance system can be considered as one possible governed decision environment. Its value is not that it replaces leadership, but that it can help place AI support inside a structure where reasoning, evidence, context and follow-through are visible and reviewable. If your organisation chooses to explore a path like that, the significance is not just technological. It shows a serious approach to capability, responsibility, governance, and controlled decision-making in the AI age.